Hello and welcome back to Boxing Social in association with Betfred. My name is Ayman Khan. I'm here with a fighter who we haven't heard from in quite a while. So here he is to give us an update on what he's been doing during his time out of the ring. He is, of course, none other than top boxer Umar Sadiq. Umar, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I was laughing when you were doing that intro because it almost sounded like you had to scour the earth to find me.
It wasn't quite that, but we did trade some messages back and forward. I think I got you on your old phone. Big up a courtesy tag to Andy Purwell, who passed me over the number to then get in contact with you. So not quite scouring the earth, but you are on the other side across the pond over there in America. So, I mean, I'll leave the floor to you in terms of what you kind of left boxing with and the time that you've been out with. I'll let you start there with yourself.
Yeah, my last fight in boxing was actually my last fight in general. My last fight was February 2021, and I haven't fought since. I haven't announced anything. Basically, I've been acting since. I've been in the US because, as a lot of people know, I had that fight in September, and it was one of those fights where it was for not an interim WBA gold world title. So it was one of those opportunities that I felt that in that time of my career I couldn't let pass by, especially when it was against someone that I felt that I had a beating of. But then we went into negotiations, and the fight was only confirmed that 7 days before the fight, and then I had to get visas and get to Russia, and a whole bunch of things happened. Had a fight, an amazing fight, great performance. I was gassed out from the fourth round and somehow managed to make it to the 12th. And then the ref stopped it in the 12th, rightfully so, I think, because I was taking shots against the rope. In the moment at the time it was happening, my thoughts were, I'm going to let him gas out as the 12th round. He can't keep on going for so long. And then I'm going to have my go. And then the ref jumped in. And as the ref jumped in, having watched boxing so much, I knew that, this is it, the fight's over. And it was almost like all the resolve I had in me that kept me going from the fourth round on just left me. And then, I collapsed against the ropes. And then someone from my team came and got me. And next thing I remembered, I was sitting on a chair in the ring. And I was like, wait. Is this a dream? Am I knocked out? Oh shit, the fight's over. And then I was thinking, fuck, I fucked it. Like I came all the way here and I lost. And that was like when it just started dawning on me. And I was like, damn, like I actually lost and I got stopped. Then after the fight, we were in the changing room, or not changing room, I don't know, it was someone's changing room. But we had WADA officials waiting for us to take urine samples and blood samples and what have you. And as we were sitting there waiting to pee, it was interesting because Tridinov's team were in there and then my team were in there. We're all in the same place immediately after fighting. Boxing's beautiful for reasons like that. And so I started to get nauseous and lightheaded, and I had a headache, which I normally don't get. And then I went to the bathroom and I threw up. And I was like, okay, that was strange. It was a hard fight, so maybe that's why. So I came back, and then again, I'm feeling dizzy, head's hurting, and then I'm going to throw up again. And I was like, this is very unusual. So I said to my team, after this, I'd like to go to the hospital and get a brain scan just to be sure. And then we went and got the brain scan, and it turned out to be that I had a subdural hematoma, which, for those who don't know, like I didn't, is a bleed to the brain. So I had it within the skull. So I had it in the surface of the brain. Do I understand is there's a sheet that goes over the brain, between the brain and the skull, and it was on that. But that doesn't take away from how serious it was, because one of my brother-in-laws is a brain surgeon, and he was saying to me, typically people need treatment within 10 minutes or half an hour, otherwise something fatal, life-changing could happen. And I didn't actually get to, the whole thing was a mess. We drove to so many hospitals that day, or that night, should I say, and they just didn't have the right equipment, or they weren't open for whatever reason, or the departments weren't open. And then it took till about 5, maybe 6 a.m. before we got to a hospital. So we did it all night whilst I've got a bleed in my head. And then like early hours in the morning, I finally got to hospital. They were like, okay, cool, you've got subdural hematoma. I was like, okay, cool. And I went to leave, and they were like, no, you've got to stay in. And I was like, why? They said, because the neurological department aren't in until Monday. The fight was on a Friday night. So this is like early hours Saturday. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll come back on Monday. And then they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, are you for real? Like, you need to stay in the hospital. I was like, no, it's cool. But obviously we're fighters, or I'm a fighter. And as fighters, we like, pain is something we just see as something that you just have to get over and like push through. At no point did it occur to me that this could be something so severe and dangerous. I knew what I was feeling. I asked to get a scan in the first place because I was feeling it, but at no point did I think, it could be something so serious. So long story short, after the long part, I stayed in the hospital, and then it was like one of the worst places I've ever stayed in. I got some photos and videos. It's horrible. They didn't allow my team to be there or visit me, but because of COVID. But then I was in a room in a dormitory with 5 other people, so a 6-person dorm, where they were changing people every day. So I was like, well, that's counterproductive because you didn't even test me for COVID. But anyway, so I had that, and then because of the results of that, the British Boxing Board, as I think, understandably they do, is they suspended my license until I could prove that I'm fit to box safely. So whilst I was going through that, there were things that the board were asking me for that I felt were unreasonable. It was stuff like they wanted the actual hard disk of the scans from Russia. And I was like, well, it's fucking Russia. I don't speak Russian, but it's fucking Russia during pandemic. Like, how the fuck am I meant to get that? So we went back and forth, and the thing got frustrating. At that point, I was in America anyway, and I was speaking with someone who was talking about fight. A lot of Americans fight in Mexico. So what a lot of Americans do is they build the records from the first fight up until the 10th. Some of them go on even longer, fighting in Mexico, because it's Mexico to Russia is like going to France for someone in the UK, it's like get a train or whatever, drive and get a ferry. And they would build a record there and then come back. But then at the same time, you got some game fighters in Mexico, so you got to be careful. But I had this opportunity to fight in Mexico in February. I found out 2 weeks before the time. And I was like, I'm going to do it because I missed boxing. I didn't know what was coming next in my career because, the whole thing with the board was taking so long and whatnot. And I was out here anyway. So I've sort of felt like I was I don't know, I just felt like removed from everything. So I took the fight, had a great performance, stopped the guy in the first minute of the fight. And then after that, the board found out. So they got mad. And they were like, well, you had a fight outside our jurisdiction without a permission. And I was like, well, I was suspended at the time. So if I'm suspended, what am I asking for permission for? So that was a whole back and forth and a whole nother thing. And then the board were like, we don't think you're fit to box because in our experience, when people have had this injury, it happens again, yada, yada, yada. But if you can prove that you're fit to box, then, we'll revisit and have another meeting with you, hearing. So I went and had a neuropsychological evaluation, which is an evaluation of essentially your brain and how it functions, and covers things like dexterousness, coordination, memory, speech, just a whole bunch of things, and problem solving. IQ testing is involved in that. I'm pleased to announce that I medically have superior to high IQ and superior to high intelligence, and I have that on paper signed by a doctor. So I had all that flying colors. So I was like, well, good, I'm great. Like, there's no lasting damage, there's nothing. So I went back to the board, and again, they were just like, we're not having it. Hand on heart, I think there are 2 reasons behind it. I don't know which one outweighs the other, but they're both good reasons behind why they do that. And I think one is self-protection. If anything was to happen to me, they won't want to be sued. And I think secondly, it's also a concern, I guess, because what they're saying is in their experience, when people suffer such injuries. So basically what they said was the fact that you had it shows us that you are susceptible to having it in the first place. So that means it could happen again. Thing is, whenever an injury like that happens again, it's always worse than the first time. And you're actually lucky that you've come out of this one unscathed. So that gave me a lot to think about. And I just had to accept, like, really the position I was in was make a decision as to whether or not I want to literally risk my life or living as a vegetable for the sake of boxing, or if I want to explore other things in life. And I always wanted to be an actor from when I left school. The only reason I didn't go study drama is because my family were like, like West African families, probably the same for Asians and whatnot. And they're like, no, like you're gonna study and get a proper job and be a professional and all of that. What actually happened was I got lost for a number of years and ended up traveling the world. And I did study accounting and did accounting for a year and a half, but then I ended up boxing anyway, which is like way more dangerous. So I just decided, you know what? It feels like fate. I'm in Los Angeles when I find out that it's not wise for me to box. Literally, I live near Hollywood, like not long. And so yeah, I'm living in Hollywood when I find out that it's not safe for me to box. And acting is what I've always wanted to do anyway. So I was just like, I'm just gonna lean into that. So that's what I've been doing. I've been leaning into acting, and I was late for you today because I was submitting an audition, and hopefully I get the role. And this is my life now. I apply for acting jobs all day and speak with my agents and go to acting schools and take lessons and audition and audition and audition and hear nothing back and hear nothing back. And occasionally I get to work. And that's the way the industry is. And I'm happy, which is the main thing.
Well, Umar, you mentioned a lot of things there. First of all, I want to say, leading off with your last sentence, you said you were happy, and that's the main thing, and that is the main thing. So I want to say, like, I'm happy that you are also happy. Two, acting sounds like a brilliant gig. If you can succeed in that, hopefully you do succeed in there. Hopefully you get to be on the next season of Stranger Things as well. One of my favorite series. But yeah, I remember watching an interview of yourself around a year ago. This was still during the pandemic period, and you were at a point where you were looking to potentially still trying to pursue getting your license back. From you speaking towards the end there of your story and what's happened to you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you might sound content in saying that maybe you're retired now. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I would say so. So September 2021 was when I had the final hearing with the board. And I had to wake up at like 3 a.m. to get on a Zoom call with them so that it could be 11 a.m. in the UK. And I had a call. Since I filed treatment, by the way, I got married. So I had my wife with me when I was on the call.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She was sitting off to the side on the screen. I wanted to get her opinion. She's a smart woman, wise too. But she didn't even have to say much at the end of it. I just knew anyway. And like I said, I just decided there and then. And I never announced a retirement, I guess, because it's a big transition when your whole life is something. Like anyone who's boxed or knows any boxing on any intimate level knows that boxing becomes your life. It determines what time you sleep, where you go, where you sleep, what you eat, what you drink, who you hang around with, even just it's everything. And that also affects the way that people treat you, the conversations you have, because normally as a fighter you meet someone and there is a certain energy that people give you because they respect what you do, but also there's a curiosity in what you're doing. When is your next fight? And there's curiosity just about you because you do something that's so unusual. So the experiences that you have with people is different. And after that, I wouldn't call it a crisis, but I had a misplaced identity thing. So after that meeting with the board, I went into a boxing gym about 2 days after, and for the first time ever in my life, I was in a boxing gym and I felt out of place because it was a sparring day as well. So a lot of gyms here, what they would normally do is they would have their sparring days and anyone can pull up and you get work if you get work. So there's a lot of people there. Obviously the energy is kind of intense and hyped. People want to fight or spar, I guess. So many of them have got dates for the fights that they're getting ready for and all of that. And I walked in and I was like, well, I don't have a date and I'm never gonna have a date if I continue with this decision. And I just looked around and I was like, all these young people with all these dreams and all that they're working hard for, and look at them pulling up and showing up to the gym, and look how hard they're training, look how fit they are, and the coaches and the teams that are around them to support this dream, and all the sacrifices they're making. And I wonder if they make it or if they don't. Like, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And I was like, damn, I've never ever looked at boxing like that, ever. I always would just be in a gym and we're all here to train and we get this work and this is what we're doing. It was just life. And for the first time, I looked at it like an outsider, curious with so many questions. And when I got home, it dawned on me, I was like, wow, that was like, it was a big identity like a question. And then yeah, so it felt overwhelming. And even like I would wake up on a day and I'm like, what do I do? Because normally everything I do is around boxing. It's like whether or not I train, what I do before I train later, if I'm going to train later, the things I do in the day, how are they supporting my career? And I was just waking up and looking around. And I'm in Los Angeles, the weather's great, but I was still just like, yeah, what am I doing today? Like, what is life, you know? Which that now I'm saying actually right now in real time, it sounds a bit like a depression. Um, but yeah, so that was all hard. And I was just, the last thing, not the last thing, but one of the last things I wanted to do then was then go and make it even more public and, you know, put it into the public eye and be like, yo, guys, this is the situation. And there's no part of me that's an attention hoarder or manga or anything. So I didn't care for the attention. I'm happy to just do what I do. For me, life is about health, joy, and loved ones, you know, and I have all that intact. So I just minded my business and just kept doing my thing. And then you reached out to me to have this interview after a while. And I think, fortunate for you, you've kind of fluked this scoop because I wasn't planning on talking to anyone about it, but then you hit me up and someone else hit me up for a podcast I'm going to do later today. So I was like, wow, that's quite coincidental. So maybe this is a good time to just let everybody know that I'm done. But maybe don't post this today. So post it tomorrow so I can announce on my social media first.
Yeah, but I'm more than happy to do that. I'm more than happy for you to let your news be your news. So not a problem at all with that. Umar, it sounds like you went through a lot and you've come to a point where you're at your realization, you're able to look back at the things that you went through in a more measured kind of way than maybe the time was. I wonder, you mentioned that you got married and you got your wife with you by your side. I imagine that your wife was very much with you in those dark moments and helping to bring you back into the light.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she was, for real. So yeah, I'm married in the first place because she's amazing. She's a grounded woman, intelligent, wise, like I said, driven, really a role model, I think, for a lot of women, or a lot of women to look to. And I'm fortunate that she thinks I'm amazing enough to marry too. So, so yeah.
Umar, who checked up on you during this time in which you were going through these things? Who was there, maybe with the team wise? Did anyone check in on you or were you alone during this period?
For extended periods of the time I was alone, but it was also like, pandemic times, lockdowns and whatnot. I respect that so many people going through their own things, but there are some people that I was working with who checked with me. There's a guy that I was working with. He likes to be behind the scenes. Maz, for anyone who knows, he checked up on me a number of times. He was supported the whole way through. My coach, Lionel Ergin, he now trains Khalid Ali. He checked up on me. Frank Warren was checking up on me at one point, and then he kind of ghosted me, like straight up. But then he hit me back again randomly a couple of months ago. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, maybe he just had his own things going on too. And then there are a few other people that have checked up. I wouldn't say I was like completely alone. Obviously, I've got my friends and family and whatnot. But for the most part, I don't feel that a lot of people even knew that any of this was going on because I didn't say anything. So I didn't have any expectations from anyone.
No, that's fair enough. Let's look at your career then. I wasn't expecting to maybe the conversation to go this way, but this is one of those interviews which is kind of nice in a way to find these things out. So, looking back and reflecting then on your career, how do you feel? Do you feel content with your career, and what were some of the highlights for yourself in your own words?
I feel content in the sense that I was able to turn professional in the first place. And I did that after leaving a stable accounting job in the city. I'm content that I got to sign with a Hall of Fame promoter, that I got to box on TV, I got to fight for a version of a world title. And you know what, actually, the most frustrating thing of all of this is that at the time when I had to accept that boxing was done, I was the best I've ever been. Coming out here to the States and learning the things that they teach here, it's so different. There's so much more nuanced in the way that they approach boxing, and there is so much more information that's shared across gyms and coaches. And the sparring that I had, like my regular sparring partners with David Benavidez, like Gilberto Ramirez. I was chief sparring partner for Bivol leading up to the Craig Richards fight, and a whole bunch of other people, some that you might know, some that you may not know. So, but besides that, also I was training with a guy called Julian Chua, who is a young trainer, very, very, very good trainer, relatively undiscovered, but his time's coming. And his approach to boxing is just, it's way up there. He's in that new school of boxing of, I don't want to compare him to anyone, but there is a new crop of boxing coaches who are a lot more nuanced and open to embracing different ways of looking at things and actually breaking down what's been thought of in things. So, for example, a lot of cultures in the UK will say be first, but what does that actually mean? Be first. You tell a fighter be first. What does that mean? And some people might say, well, you got to throw your punches first. You got to throw a double jab and a cross. But why are you throwing it in that moment? Where are you? What's your position in the ring when you're throwing it? What have you done to set it up? What's your stance? What's your opponent's stance in a real time? Were you throwing it because you expect to land it or because you expect to distract them for something else? And where exactly in the body are you throwing it at? There's just so many things. And even the jab itself, how do you throw the jab without telegraphing and whilst generating power? There is so many things that I spent 16 years in boxing not learning. And then I came to Los Angeles, California. And in like 9 months, I would say I was twice as good as I was coming here. So that was the most frustrating thing of all of it. But back to the question, even that as an experience is great. I mean, I got to travel the world. I got to represent England. I got to represent Nigeria. I got to meet so many different people I call friends for life now through boxing. Boxing's been amazing, and it's helped me even in what I'm doing now in acting, because through boxing I was able to be in positions where I was fortunate enough to get TV commercials, adverts, calling commercials here, and modeling gigs that led me into being signed by agencies to be a model and be an actor in adverts. And so I got that experience to bring in, but also the life experiences of knowing what you want and knowing that you have to literally commit your life to it and live that every day to achieve what you want. And now I carry it into acting. I feel like I have an advantage over so many other actors just don't have that drive. And I'm doing amazing things in the short time that I've been doing this. October 2021, I decided I wanted to be an actor. And since then, I'm in 2 different schools at the same time. So I'm essentially a full-time student whilst doing all these other things. But I've since then done 3 short films, one of which I co-produced. I've done 2 plays. I've with an agent for commercials and print. I've had a ton of headshots done. I've easily done over 90 auditions. Like, and list goes, like, my work rate is relentless, but a lot of that comes from boxing.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to your acting career shortly because I do want to touch on that also. But you mentioned 2 big names there and talking about insights into boxing and what you've learned in your experiences. Benavidez and Bivol, sparring those 2 would have brought you on greatly in terms of just building yourself as a boxer, as a fighter. What do you feel you learned from the sessions with those 2?
Benavidez and Bivol, you asked specifically. So it's, for me at the time, the lesson was, wow, like, I'm mixing it with these guys. I'm actually mixing it with these guys. I'm not in the ring getting like banged out pillar to post, like we're in here, like getting work. And it was levels, and it is about levels. It's about the things that you're allowed to get away with versus not. And it might not even be a punch that you threw. It might be your body language and the way you do something. So you might have an exchange and you go to step to the side. And if you're sloppy in any way about doing it, they smell blood and they come for it. So even in your stepping off to the side, you need to look like you're very grounded and solid in it. Otherwise, they're going to smell weakness. And having that mental stamina and emotional stamina to keep that up, second after second after second, for round after round, that helps with the development a lot. And also because they're so good in either defending or counter punching, and often not counter punching with light shots, you now have to get more creative in the way that you're setting up your attacks, and you have to be like, you have to commit to your attacks. You can't commit half-heartedly because you'll get countered. So you have to really believe in what you're doing and believe that it was smart and whatnot, and you do that. So there are a lot of things that I picked up from me, and that was great.
You mentioned there your acting and the journey that you're going on through now. I saw on your website you've done a commercial with David Beckham. That's a big way to start off with things, as well as your own.
That was whilst I was boxing.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. I've been out here doing this stuff, man.
So talk to me about kind of how you've managed to transition your kind of boxing skills into acting. You mentioned about the drive and the determination that you got to wanting to get to the top of boxing, which is transitioning over to acting. But are there any other further nuances? And then just tell us more about you mentioned about, going for these auditions, like what you've kind of learned as an actor and as a person.
There's actually so many similarities. So for example, when you're in a fight or you're sparring, everything is moment to moment. You never really know what a person's going to do next, and they never really know what you're going to do next. And you can influence things to some extent, right? But you still have to be present in every split second. And in acting, it's the same, because a lot of people think that acting is, you see a script, you learn your lines, and you figure out a performance that you're going to give, and you come out and you give the performance. But if, I don't know, if I had a line that said, I don't like the way that you're talking to me and you did it and all of that. But then when I come to you to say it, and I'm like, I don't like the way you're talking to me, and you sort of turn your face and you're like, oh, like almost like you didn't realize, it would be weird if I just carried on, or if I'm, I don't know, opening my heart about something and you roll your eyes, maybe because that's what you planned. You roll your eyes and I carry on like I didn't notice that. It will look very strange. It's not real. It's not what people do in real life. So you have to actually be moment to moment with your partner and see what they're doing and act off of that. So I'll say that's something that boxing's taught me, that transfers. And then, like I said, about the hard work, you get out what you put in. What else? There's a whole bunch of stuff, even like down to having emotional stamina. Like you're doing take after take after take. Like whenever you watch something, so these are some things I've been learning recently. Whenever you watch a show or TV show, you see like Stranger Things. If you see like two people talking to each other, normally the frame is showing one person's face, then the other person's face, then it might be to the side of both of them, showing both of them. Then it might be another take shot from like much further, which is a wide shot that gets the whole room. Each one of those angles you're looking at is a different take, is a different frame, because when you think about it, when the shot's wide, you don't see any cameras in front of them looking at each person's face, So it's like over the shot, over the one person's shoulders to get the other person's face, and the other side, and this side, and that side. And then you're doing each one several times. So you got to have the emotional stamina and focus to keep going over and over and over again. And when you're in like a 10-round fight or 12-round fight, I look at it as the same thing. It's intense, second by second. So that's helped. So yeah, it's like the stamina to keep going, being focused moment to moment, working hard, believing that if you keep grafting, you get better. Understanding, having agents. You have an agent, you could have a manager if you want to, and understanding the relationships that you have with these people and how it works, and the fact that you might not work all the time, and you might not fight all the time. When is the next fight date? When is the next? I don't know. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for that. And we're in negotiations, but we know that they're talking with other people, so someone else might get a fight. It's all the same sort of thing. So yeah, it's very transferable. Maybe it's not, and I just somehow find ways to connect it to make myself happy. But that's what it feels like.
Oh, you made a lot of sense there, Umar, 100% with your words there, and I completely felt exactly what you were saying with how it transitioned from boxing to acting. I wonder, Umar, just to ask you whether you would return to boxing in some form, maybe not fighting, but you maybe coach down the line. Would you look at those things down the line if they were presented to you?
So I've actually considered a coaching thing because many people have mentioned it to me. And the thing with the coaching, I would love to coach someone because now I've got all this knowledge that I picked up and I didn't get to use. I would happily pass it on to someone else. And I've spoken to a few people and given them some nuggets. But again, from that boxing mindset, it's like, if this is what I'm doing now, acting, then I need to be committed to it full time. You know, it's probably, it was 9:30 your time right now, which is 1:30 p.m. my time. I've been up since about 7:30 auditioning, preparing for stuff and doing all of that. And this is what I do full time. So if I had to then watch tapes on an opponent for a fighter and meet the fighter every so often and check on them and go away for weekends because they're fighting and all that, that would distract from what my main goal is right now. So I'd happily assist like in certain camps or be an assistant coach to someone in some capacity that doesn't require too much of my time. I'd happily do things like that. But for the most part, what I'd really love to do is be a pundit or something, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, like if I could be a pundit or a commentator or something, like that would be ideal because that's something I could do over the weekend. When the fight's on, you know, I don't need to do all the work that leads up to the fight week. I just need to be available during the fight week, and then I get back to acting. So ideally, that's what I would do. I'm not completely sure how to go about doing that. So if anyone's watching this and has any ideas or anything that they think might be able to help, please let me know.
Mhm.
And I'd happily travel to the UK just to work and then come back here again. If the money is like, yeah, basically I can travel to the UK for not too much money because I'm on some sort of travel scheme. So yeah, if I was getting paid to come to the UK to work, I would happily come even if it's just for a weekend. So let me know. My Instagram is Topboxing Sadiq and my website is umarsadiq.com, and reach out to me and let me know, guys. I'll be right over there.
It'll be you got to change that from top boxer to top actor now, I suppose, haven't you?
You know, I'm not. I'm gonna keep as Topboxer Sadiq unless I can get the Umar Sadiq handle. Because if I get Umar Sadiq handle, then you know that's sort of clean. It's just Umar Sadiq, and then maybe people find out I was a boxer, maybe they don't. But I think it's quite interesting as an actor, like you said. Imagine if I'm on Stranger Things and then people find out my Instagram handle is Top Boxer Sadiq. That opens a conversation, opens that it makes people curious. So I actually quite like that. I'm happy to keep it there. Plus, boxing is a part of me. It's been part of me since I was 16. I'm 34 now. So why would I want to delete that? You know?
Umar, my final question to you, and I'll leave the final words with you as well, in terms of how you ever want to take this question. But now that you've kind of closed that book on that chapter and you're moving forward with your life, what's the advice that you'd give to someone who's just lacing up a pair of gloves, just turning pro, had their first fight, had their first loss? What's the advice you'd give to that person?
It hardly ever goes exactly as anyone plans it. And I'm not just saying this for myself, I'm saying it for friends of mine who are world champions right now. I'm saying it for people who may not be world champions right now, but are doing so good in the career. Like there are so many components that are operating at the same time that it's hard to plan all those things unless you're some type of a future seeing supercomputer, you know, so, because you've got your dream and what you want, and there's 1,000 other people who have the same dream who need so many different things that you need, and you're fighting for all these things at the same time, and you can win so many of them, but you might not win some others. Like we were saying earlier, am I going to fight this other fight? But this fight is also negotiating with these other people. So who gets the fight? Who gets to be on this date and this show? You're relying on promoters to put shows on. You're relying on governing bodies to rank you where you want to be ranked. You're relying on judges to do the right thing and referees to do the right thing. And, there's just so much to plan. So the only things that you have in your control are how you manage yourself and the people around you. So I would say focus on that, be patient, don't rush anything. Of course, be intentional and do things like you intend to be somewhere. So make moves, but just if it doesn't feel right, it ain't right. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And you're going to meet a lot of people in the industry from all facets, from promoters to coaches to other fighters to refs to matchmakers, you name it, pundits, just all types of people, even media. And most people would always be friendly towards you because you are, or as long as you're presenting something to them that they need. And it's not personal because you're also not doing this because you're trying to make friends. You're doing this because you're trying to make a dream happen. And similarly, everybody else in the industry has a dream of their own that they're trying to make happen. So when people are nice to you, of course, many people, I believe inherently people are nice. So people are going to be nice, but for the most part, people are nice to you, usually because you have something to offer, whether it's money, status, association, access to somebody else that happens to, whatever it is. And the moment you're no longer offering something that that person deems valuable, they will change and they will ignore you. And it's not personal. Don't take it personal. It's just how it goes because they are also following. So yeah, Zoom told me I was talking too much, so cut out. And I forgot exactly where I was, but the point is, in summary, there are too many components to consider when you're trying to plan your career. Plan to the best of your ability, and then focus on what you can control and let the rest of it happen naturally. Be patient, be ambitious yet patient. So know when to strike, know when to wait, but really focus on controlling yourself, what you do, and the people around you, and that's the best that you can do. And feel free to step out of your box and learn new things. Feel free to embrace new things, and don't be stuck with people for the sake of loyalty. And that's not to encourage disloyalty. It's because some people will get you as far as they can get you. And you might have to leave to get further. And if that person loves you and they're honest with themselves, they would recognize that they really got you as far as you can be with them. And they'll support you in what you're doing. So even when I moved to the United States, initially, my coach, I remember Lionel, I started training with Julian Shaw over here, and I told Lionel about it. And at no point was he against it. He was like, oh, hold on. He said, you've moved to another country, doing what you love, and or being with your love. You're at the time we got married, and I can't get in the way of you doing what's right for you. So you're in America anyway. Train with him, and we'll just touch base when we touch base. And my intention was always to keep Lionel on, in my team. Whenever I had fights, I'll fly him over. If it was in the UK, he's there anyway. And then obviously that ended up not working out that way. But for the most part, that he's a person who I have a lot of trust in, and it showed, because when I was like, yo, I want to do this, he supported it. He didn't get in the way. But I've had other coaches in the past that I know wouldn't have been appreciative of that. And anyway, I'm blabbing on again. Short story is, control what you can control and leave the rest to God and live by faith.
Well said. I think those are advice not only just that applies to boxing, but also to life in general that you mentioned there in your words. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you. We'd love to get you on the Boxing Social podcast at some point as well too, when you're back in the UK. Do you have plans to come back to the UK anytime soon?
Yeah, I would love to visit. So right now, I actually want to come to the UK right now as we speak, but I want to do it when I've got some type of work. So whether I've got an acting gig or modeling gig, or if I'm being paid to be a pundit on TV for a boxing show or something. But I want to do it when I've got some work to do. So that's the next goal. So I'll be back at some point soon.
You'll be back, and I'm sure we'll have you back on a Zoom as well at some point too. Umar, it's been an absolute pleasure, a distinct pleasure to speak to you. Congratulations on your career. I wish you all the best as well with your acting too. Top boxer, top actor, Umar Sadiq. Thanks again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and have a good day.